Now let's start our next panel on effective brand safety strategies for a rapidly evolving digital advertising ecosystem. So friends, brand safety solutions enable a brand to avoid content that is generally considered to be inappropriate for any advertising or unfit for the publisher monetization. To discuss about effective brand safety strategies, we have experts on the matter with us, starting from Mr. Anurag Khurana, founder and CEO of Penta Sports, Mr. Gopa Menon, Head Digital South Asia Mindshare, Ms. Devika Sharma, who is the Director Sales, Glance, Mr. Sameer Vanchu, CMO, Eureka Forbes. And to help chairing this session, we have been joined by Mr. Prasad Shijale, who is the founder and CEO of DIGIXX Digital. Over to you, Prasad.
So welcome on the panel discussion. Really looking forward to a great session for next 40 minutes. So brand safety measures have been a focus for digital advertisers, brands, agencies, and publishers. Brand safety has been talked about a lot. Poor brand safety risks alienating and losing customers. Therefore, brand safety will always serve an essential role for the advertisers and publishers. Recently, there has been an industry shift to brands suitability thanks to COVID pandemic. As marketers seek more control and confidence in the solutions they deploy, it's becoming clear that rudimentary brand safety tactics aren't as effective as they once were. Today's discussion's title is Effective Brand Safety Strategies for a Rapidly Evolving Digital Advertising Ecosystem. It has many important words like effective, rapidly evolving, and ecosystem, and so on and so forth. But there are many players like brand, tech providers, publishers, content creators, agencies, industry bodies, government bodies, as well as customers and general society at large are part of the ecosystem, and everyone may see the brand safety in a different light. Today, we have panelists representing diverse views. From the brand side, we have Anurag from gaming, Sameer from consumer durable. We have Devika representing publishers, and Gopa represents agencies. So first question to all of you, we will like to know your views. Okay, according to you, what is the brand safety in a digital advertising ecosystem, since there are multiple different definitions and different views? So over to you guys, one after another. Anurag, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, Sameer. Thanks for inviting me here. So in my books, brand safety is communicating the brand message in the right way to the audience. And since esports, which industry I am representing to be more precise, since it's youth, we have to be very careful with the messaging of the brand there, because interpretation by youth on that brand messaging could be different if we try to be innovative. Innovative is a good thing, but innovation in a limit is good thing when it comes to youth. So that is my take on the brand safety.
So interpretation by the target audience is the brand safety that you're talking about. That's a good one. Sameer, yeah. What's your view? I mean, how do you define it?
So while Anurag has said about brand safety being related to communication, there are a lot of aspects of brand safety in terms of, there's also an aspect of proper brand messaging and following the brand guidelines. Now, in the age of digital marketing, you have got situations where the pages and the ads misalign because of personalization attempts. These also are brand safety, because this impacts the way the viewer sees your ad, sees your brand. The other aspects of brand safety may not be all with consumer communication, may also be led with culture change internally. So you may have an employee who makes a remark which may be about an extremist remark or a culturally insensitive remark. That also affects the brand, because the employee in the other sense is also related to the brand. So it's not only about external communication, it's also about internally, how do each and every employee or the corporate employee has a custodian for the brand. There are other aspects of brand safety in terms of how do you tackle fake news, how do you tackle extremist views, what are the impact of, although it's not a matter of brand safety, but it's also a matter of safety of the brand marketing, etc. There are fraudulent bots, etc. going around. All these also matter in terms of how the brand is perceived and how do you safeguard the brand. We will be tackling about, and I will be stating about how the measures taken, but I would say brand safety is a little more complex word than a simple answer. It has got many more layers to it. Also, more than the other aspects of safety, like a suitability, which is an environment which is suitable for a brand, and a suitable environment for a youth sports brand may not be the same suitable environment for an insurance brand. So every brand person has to define the suitability and safety paradigm for the brand, and then find ways to monitor it and find ways to implement the same.
That's a very interesting one, Samir. When I thought that, I'm trying to put some boundary around the safety, you added employee comments and everything onto it. Thanks for it. And I think that is where I think understanding each and everyone's view is so critical. Gopa, I'll come to you last, okay, because you're the custodian of the brand. Let me hear it from Devika, from the publisher's viewpoint. All to you, Devika.
I like how I'm holding the mantle of all publishers universally.
Yeah, you do represent, and I think I'm quite sure there are multiple different discussions in terms of how do you do it. It'll come later on, but yes, go ahead, please.
So from a publisher's lens, I think Samir covered it fairly exhaustively, right? Which is brand safety covers not just aspects of safety, but also suitability of content. And from a publisher's lens, our role is to work with brands and see how best we can enable that, right? There is context which matters, and putting brands, to their respective users in the best possible context that would yield the best outcome for the brand, as well as making sure that the brand is not associated with any objectionable content on the publishers or the platform site that the brand is working with, and that is what a publisher would endeavor to do.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. Short answer, but very relevant one. And I think last one, Gopa. What's your view from the agency side? Because I'm quite sure you have come across many of such issues and experiences that way. So Gopa, all to you. Over to you.
So yeah, thank you, Prasad, and excited to be in the panel. So I think from a discussion standpoint, I think all of the panelists have actually covered what brand safety is. And I think as agency POV, again, I think brand safety is very clearly brand messaging, whether internal or external, being served right at the right environment. I think that should be the and right context. And that simply put, if you are able to actually put that messaging there, we're pretty much there. So that's what at least I would like to keep it pretty much simple and precise. So if Devika was very precise, I would want to actually be more.
I think context is a pretty good one. I think we're going to talk about that later too. But many brand safety pitfalls and missteps can be attributed to tactics that aren't adopted for today's content and news cycles. Context, you talk about it, Gopa, understanding the true meaning of the page and accounting for nuances in languages and interpretations, really matters a lot. Widely used brand safety tactics such as keywords and URL blocking, they just don't support the interpretation of nuances. So this conundrum often pits brand safety against scale, when in reality, the two don't need to be mutually exclusive. Samir, to you have managed brands like Mattel, Kevin Care, and currently Eureka Forbes, Aquaguide, many of those brands. How do you manage the brand safety in a WWW, that is wild world of web? Samir?
I like the context of WWW, wild world of web, Prasad. The first aspect I would say in brand safety, and I'm going to break that into something called algorithms. When you, in today's world, everyone is trying dynamic ad creation. Everyone is trying personalization. So there are elements, and these elements can happen when, because of personalization, the image and the context may not match, the pages and the ads can misalign. These things can happen. And the first thing is I do as a brand manager, as a brand head, is first have a fantastic programmatic agency with you, like DIGIXX. So that is the first step.
Thank you. It was not a product placement or a service placement. But thanks a lot for calling us time out. Thank you very much. Thanks, Samir.
That is very critical. Unless you have a great programmatic partner, unless you have a great digital partner, these mishaps can happen much more than what is required. So that is first. Second thing is, the importance of context and the messaging. I'll just give a small example. You can have a context, and that happens in our business, where the rains come later, and you can have a situation where there are floods or where there are poor rains and drought is there and the farmers are committing suicide. And next to it, you can have an aquaguard messaging saying monsoon floods can cause bacteria and viruses. Now imagine the aspects and how wrong the communication is in the context of which is applied. How do you do that? How do you manage it? And these are aspects which the brand managers, we sensitize the brand managers that only go and be very, very careful on terms of what are the contexts to which you're applying. Is there a situation which is quite different than what is there in the environment? Now I'll give you an example of fake news. And this, when I was the brand head in Kevin's Milkshake, and being a food product, you used to often get fake news that a person has drank milk and he vomited or he has got stomach upset. Now, what tactics did we employ then? What we did is, first is we were very alert. So have a great ORM agency, and I believe a quick rebuttal is better than no rebuttal. A quick rebuttal, get it out there. You may want to, not take it to a large extent, but get it out there and keep it there that we have made a quick rebuttal and we have already nipped it in the bud, as to speak. Lastly, the biggest tactic we have done is take it offline. The best discussions happen when you take these online issues to offline and have the salesperson call them up and bring it off the social media radar. Recently there was a case in which a bank employee had some extremist views on a social media platform that caused a very negative sentiment on the brand. After that incident, what we did as a company is, as a part of the joining in process, we told each and every employee, and even the current employees, to separate the personal account from the professional account. As far as possible, ask them, remove the corporate name from the personal social account, because it's not required. I know LinkedIn makes it difficult, but LinkedIn is not a platform where people make these comments. It's on the other social media platforms and people express their views. Second is, we also had an immense coaching on what kind of personal views are acceptable on social media and what is the messaging you can give out. And ultimately, it's a personal choice. We cannot impair on a person's freedom, but at least we made them aware of the negative aspects of these social comments. So that teaching and coaching we have done. Finally, we also have a brand, and I said that why bots are also aspect of brand safety, because it impacts our marketing budgets, and a lot of problems can happen. And our metric, our efforts, that's why with association with the best digital agencies, has been to move the metric away from clicks, etc., to leads or validated leads or sales. So at least you have got a hard metric of evaluating a digital spend rather than clicks and engagements, which can be bot ruled, for example. So these are some of the tactics we have employed. Third-party data enrichment is another tactic which one can employ for cutting out these fraudulent bots, etc. Negative targeting is something which many websites allow now, and many social media platforms allow now. You should make use of that. These are some of the things that, how do you control brand safety, and what are tactics I have employed in my career to control them.
I think something very interesting one, being such a big brand prevention. You really talked about prevention in terms of how do you train your people. That's a very interesting one. And I also like when you talk about no matter how much what you are going to do, there could be a problem, and how to be ready for it. Okay, that's a very interesting sort of viewpoint that you have put together. And another one, definitely when it comes to scale, there are multiple audiences, and how do you get your first party, third party happening, and that is where the scale can happen. Thanks for covering that question in a very nicer way and 360 views that way. Devika, we would like to know your publisher perspective. But Glance is a platform that publishes, and correct me if I'm wrong, publishes content on the lock screen and lock screens of smartphones, and it also enables content discovery in a frictionless manner. Users can select content categories that interest to them, and I know there are a lot of AI ML also gets talked about when I was reading about it. So personalization, smartphones, lock screens, AI ML, okay, I feel it's a very nasty combo to go things wrong. How does Glance adhere to brand safety? It will be very interesting for all of us to know about it.
So from a Glance lens, Prasad, actually there is absolutely no scope for anything to go wrong. And the reason for that is that we have a singular process that ensures that there is no objectionable content that is published on Glance, right? So the process is really straightforward, which is that all content that is published on Glance is curated using AI-led tools, right? But this is supported with human intervention, both in terms of moderation and approval. And this is applied to every single piece of content that we publish on the platform. So this is, this is a process we deploy extensively and with a zero error margin. And the reason we follow this process is based on three principles. The first thing is, who we are as an organization, what defines us as a brand and as a platform. And what we want is for our content to be able to create moments of joy, moments of engagement for our users, and not leave them with any bad experiences, right? The second is that, the lock screen is an incredibly personal space, but it's also a very public space, right? And we as a platform need to balance out what we're publishing to the user, and again, be very careful about not offending anyone's sensibilities, right? So to give you an example, a particular user can be a parent, right? And very often children access their parents' phone. So we need to be very careful about the kind of content we're publishing and make sure that there is no content that the user is seeing on the lock screen, or the user's child rather is seeing on the lock screen, which is objectionable or inappropriate in any way, right? The third principle is our relationship with OEMs. So we publish Glance in conjunction with OEM partners. And we're deeply cognizant of the fact that whatever we publish on Glance and the imagery that Glance as a brand is able to create rubs off on OEMs as well. So we're deeply cautious about, the kind of content we publish on the platform. And that, is supported with the kind of content restrictions we follow on the platform. So for example, there is no room to publish any sort of content that could be perceived as clickbaiting. We do not publish any adult content or any content related to violence, religious content related to hate speech, right? So we are very, very particular about the kind of content we publish. And for what it's worth, I think all of it dials back to the DNA we have as an organization, which is, we're very, very, very clear about who we want to be for our users and what kind of content, therefore, we want to publish to them.
Very interesting. I think what my takeaway here is that corporate culture, okay, as a publisher, is very much important. Second thing that you talk about, and that's not just enough, okay? The second thing that you talk about, very strong guidelines. And the third and one of the most critical one, how do you get that human intervention on top of the technology, okay? Because, it really takes that safety security to some other level, okay? When you really, sort of that last 1% adding the human intervention. Absolutely fantastic answer there. Okay, I think publisher who are listening to today's discussion, I think it's something which is absolute fantastic takeaway from your answer. Anurag, okay, you are in a very interesting space, right? And especially in the areas like edutech and gaming, where the primary consumer of such content and services would not even have attained the age of legal contracting and needs to be extremely, extremely protected from inappropriateness. Apart from government, industry bodies and society in general is monitoring your industry. Gaming advertising has many restrictions. How do you do this tightrope walk where apart from so many restrictions, one has to advertise and adhere to brand safety too? Does it restrict the scale, and how do you tackle it?
So as a conscious call, we do not advertise anything that is detrimental to youth, because our target audience is youth only. Especially mentioning again, esports is a way as any other sport, you need to be very conscious on marketing aspect. So alongside government restrictions, we also have to follow publisher guidelines of things that we can advertise, and we have to strictly adhere to that aspect. So it's not just government, it's the game publishers also whose guidelines we have to follow. So barring some particular brands that we cannot advertise, scale isn't really a issue, because given the number of brands that are entering esports. So of course this, we can say that because of publishers restriction, government restrictions and other restrictions, we are not able to do everything. But I think the market is too big for us to worry about the scale right now.
That's a very interesting one. Yes, I understand where you're coming from. I think we are going to cover a few points later on too, but you know what, I'm coming to Gopa on that, but you know what's going through when Samir was talking about the programmatic one, there are, as programmatic ad buying becomes more important and the supply chain gets more complex, it's up to the brands and procurement teams and agencies and media outlets to become more proactive. Agencies are, I would say, custodians of the brand, and they have important role to fuel growth as well as make sure that the brands are protected well. Gopa, you have worked with many big names like Group M, Isobar, and now Mindshare. You have managed, and we have been interacting for many years. You have managed some of the biggest brands. Okay, we'll really like to know, with your experience, the systems and processes, the guidelines, the tool that you have used while protecting the brands that you work with. Gopa, over to you.
Yeah. So one, yes, I've been privileged to actually be working with great brands. So that's one. And before I actually delve deeper into, let's say, system process and guidelines, I think it's important for us to step back and look at in terms of what are some of the questions that one need to actually answer before we get into addressing those brand safety questions, specifically for brands. For me, at least, and when we actually are interacting with brands across, the questions that we end up asking are, where do you want your customers and prospect to see your advertising or messaging? Do content adjacencies actually impact your messaging very clearly? What does your brand stand for, and how does it translate to the media placements? And again, once we know that what brand stands for, the client, platform, and agency then can collaborate and arrive at some of the definitions that are attributable to brand safety, which is standard harmful content definitions, metrics and transparent reporting, third-party tools, and safe content policy. I think all of this is very important for us to actually evaluate before we move on to putting some kind of a procedure. And again, all of this metrics will differ from brand to brand and their risk appetite in terms of where they would want their brand to be. For some brand, it will be totally no-go. For some brand, some kind of a risk appetite might be might be there, so for them to actually have some kind of a leeway with regards to how their ads are presented. So again, it's a unique decision appropriate for the brand to take. After that, I think once all of this has been evaluated and taken into consideration, at Mindshare, at least what we do is that we consult with clients and understand the thinking on what's safe for them, their risk and tolerance to inform tactical planning. And then after that, apply an MRC accredited third-party verification tool or a vendor to monitor, filter, and block invalid inventory on all programmatic and reserve campaigns. So our preferred partners are Double Verify, IS, Moat, and others, and there are industry recognized tools to actually apply that. After that, I think again we do have our own proprietary brand inclusion and exclusion list, which we put for our brands, and then have a better ad experience report also layered on this entire thing. And general guidelines that we end up giving to our brands when we are actually consulting them is to avoid avoiding non-transparent ad networks, audience extensions, and aggregator PMPs in that sense. Also, once you have deployed the ad, can you actually do an inventory analysis of all buys post-campaign? Because again, that's very important for you to actually know after delivery in terms of where your ads have been there. And then always optimize for human inventory and not bot. Everybody has spoken about bot in detail. So you should optimize for human inventory or viewable inventory in that sense. And again, look at contractual terms of all data partners that you're engaging with. Very important these days to see where we are headed, specifically from a brand safety point of view. These are the steps that we end up taking, and again, and tools and processes are in place. And as Devika suggested, certain bit of human thing also needs to be put in so that everything is not mechanized as well. So yeah, that's me.
But I think very interesting point that you put, that every every brand will have different risk appetite, and understanding the risk appetite is such a critical one. I also liked about the way you have taken apart from the standard tools, third-party tools, monitoring that, and putting some sort of a human intervention is critical. I also liked is that in the event of things go wrong, the way you have asked us to look into the contract also. Okay, so I think you have covered it pretty a well-rounded question that way, and well-rounded answer, sorry, that way. So let's move to the next interesting one, which I think all of us would like to know, is that the present brand safety guidelines need to be aligned with the changing business needs, where digital takes the center stage. Brands are required to revisit their guidelines and take the digital first approach, and consumers want, at the same time, consumer wants to interact with the brands as well as the larger community. And that is where UGC becomes important. For big brands, it can be a nightmare. Okay, and of course everyone talks about opportunity, but it can be nightmare where UGC may not be brand safe, and the brand gets attached to it. Samir, okay, how do you, I know that I've seen the the UGC which happens on your brand. So how do you handle UGC, and what are your learnings since you have sort of being managing a big brand there, okay, and a bunch of big brands there?
So yeah, we take a even when I was in Mattel, UGC was a big thing, and with mothers and kids, etc. But suitability was very, very important. We take a leaf out of DIGIXX's book. Either we put a man or a woman in the middle, and human moderation is a very, very critical part of our UGC process. While we deploy the AI, ML, contextual softwares, etc., but at the last mile, a man in the middle, makes that process much more rigid. I know it's a huge cost for the large volume of content, but something which we have grown with, and we have seen the benefits of that. With regard to influencers, because now influencers also are a very, very critical part of the brand's campaigns, and influence in many ways are third-party generated content, and we have a detailed briefing process. We discuss the brand values with them. We discuss inclusions, exclusions, what they can say, the tonality, the look and feel. The entire set of guideline is passed on to influencer before the influencer starts making the content. We also try to not to associate with influencers whose values do not match our brand values at all. I know we may want to reach a different target audience, and the influencers have their own unique style. But if the values don't match, it is a question mark, and we stay away from those influencers. So these are the points we take in to tackle the UGC and control UGC from the making it brand safe and brand appreciating rather than depreciating.
Very interesting one. I think that when you say man in the middle, it reminded me of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. But sorry for but what I get from is that a good combination of the people, the human intelligence on top of it, and really a strong and great statement when you talk about evaluating the value system of your influencers. Fantastically covered that way. I sort of really got me thinking a lot. Anurag, gaming and Discord are so connected. It's a huge community there. Okay, do you even attempt to check how community and influencers are adhering to brand safety on platforms like Discord? Discord is so big, and many of us probably don't know what's happening on that. Really want to know about it, Anurag. Go ahead.
So I completely agree with you, Prasad. To the extent our work also happens on Discord, not just managing the community. Even our office works on Discord because we are all working from home. So I completely agree. So for Discord, we do the same thing that Devika and Samir mentioned. We have people on Discord to manage stuff like that. And Discord has somewhere become synonymous with gaming, as you said, and is the primary mode for communication for our tournaments and leagues, etc. And we have very strict rules on what can be published and who does what on Discord server of ours, at least. We have community managers and Discord admins who keep strict eye on. So there's a process where anybody wants to put on Discord, it goes first for review. Once our admins and these guys approve, then only it gets posted on the server. So yeah, it's a lot of job. Like I spend close to 6 hours on our Discord server just checking what is the activity, because that's the best way to connect with the community for me.
Wow, I think Discord, it is difficult to understand. I've been trying to understand it, but it's an awesome tool. And
you gotta love it, man. Prasad, you gotta love it once you get so used to Discord. Our even our office meetings happen on Discord, not on Zoom or on Google Meet.
My son
That's
is a
the
big
power of
fan.
Discord.
My son is a big fan. He's only on Discord. He's not on
Exactly,
WhatsApp
man.
at all. He's not on WhatsApp at all.
And I
Sure.
think we should have sometimes, all the seniors and CMOs getting one day onto a Discord crash course and probably get them working on it, because if you don't understand the platform that the youth is, how do we we'll be able to advertise to them.
Prasad, if you're marketing sub 18, unless you understand Discord, you can't market to sub 18 because it's not on.
And probably there are many other things we don't understand, which we haven't. Discord is only the upper, some of the new things that we are talking about. But Devika, from that, again, when I thought about Discord, it's a platform, and I think, again, from the publisher and the platform perspective, glance came to my mind. You have been hearing to us, okay, us bole to brand and agencies and all, right? Okay, so any views in terms of what sort of a tools that you are using internally for managing that? I know you talk about human intervention, but do you really want to sort of talk more about it, or some observations when you talk about how the other side of the brands and agencies talk about it? Over to you, Devika.
I actually think Sameer and Gopa covered that very, very comprehensively, and Gopa actually did define the framework that a brand would follow. And usually the role of a publisher or a platform would be to work with the client and support them in that process as transparently as possible, because that data is what enables the brand to take the best possible decision. I think the landscape of brand safety and suitability is evolving and will continue to evolve. And so it's important to create a framework that is as elastic as possible, and for each brand to define what is suitable for their individual needs, right? Everybody spoke about IVT, Blackboard listing, etc. But I think these are very standard solutions, and it's important to go deeper into the solutions. Gopa spoke extensively about verification partners, and I think that is a key aspect that publishers need to support from their end, because that brings a lot of transparency to the table. But I think the only point I'd like to add is that identifying the right publishers to be able to address the nuanced requirements of each brand is critical, right? And it's important for publishers to share data transparently with respect to the kind of content they publish, the users, look at direct deals with clients so as to enable the transparency, enable keywords in a more nuanced way, so that the relevance that is created for a brand is far deeper and a lot more significant. So I think that's broadly what can happen from a platform and publisher lens to support this particular agenda.
I think that's an interesting one. Identify the right partners, and second, as you said, transparency, and probably it gets very linked with the direct deals also. So good one. A good advice to the brands. Gopa, coming to you. Okay, you can choose not to answer this, but I'm going to ask you. Okay, in your long career to manage many brands, I'm sure there are experiences where brand safety got compromised. Any experience? Okay, you don't have to take the name, you don't have to take which agency that you were working with. Will you like to share your experience and how did you handle it?
Interesting.
Sorry, Gopa, I put you onto a spot. Extremely sorry.
No, interesting question, Prasad. But I'm trying to think up once you've actually asked me in terms of obviously there would have been multiple scenarios where the certain instances would have happened. Also, maybe, and when I'm actually now thinking, it dates back some years, and at that point in time, I think brand safety was not that much of a burning topic the way it's supposed to be actually treated now, or how the discussions are happening currently. So in the current realm, I haven't actually experienced because of all the tools and other verifications that we have. But again, one of my memories actually trace back to an airline client long back, where I think a certain airline incident had happened, but our ads were running for a vacation or a trip on those platforms as well, which was again not, while again it can be seen as a very open platform, but at the end of the day, from a sentiment point of view, it was not that right at that point in time. So after that, once we realized that the platform was actually delivering seeing those ads, we had to stop that, obviously, and take corrective actions. Similarly, again, multiple instances of ads running on various porn sites and all of that as well has happened, and corrective actions have been taken again as well. But yeah, this has been long back. I think ever since it's become brands and marketers and agencies have started taking this very seriously, these instances are now few and far in between.
So Prasad, if I can build on, Gopa, because I had one unfortunate incident told something about it during my Kevin Care days where on milk, there was some incident and it was carried forward with a video recording on WhatsApp as a format in a certain area. And we formulated a response, we gave the response, but the learning we had there that the safety or the rebuttal doesn't have the same fire incident has. How do you get rebuttal to also fire? Because people don't like sharing rebuttals. People like sharing the episodes. Because that's the nature of the game. Sharing of bad news is much more fancier than sharing good news. And then we formed after that incident, we formed groups, and then we had brainstorming, and finally we decided that use our internal sales force and their WhatsApp connections and their WhatsApp groups as a form of rebuttal. Because even if the internal sales force and their spouses manage to put this rebuttal across WhatsApp group, it manages to permeate and go far and wide. On top of that, next day print ad was very, very critical. So that is something which we've made a part of SOP. However, the damage gets done in a day, but the next day print ad, if it doesn't come, and we try to take the first page, irrespective of the cost is there, but something like food, if it is not nipped in a bud, it can grow into a wildfire, which affects immediate tertiaries and immediate business. So these are some of the learnings I've had, and I just want to share that in this forum.
Very interesting, Sameer. I like the way you look at, inward to outward, where, you try to employees and your partners that you leverage. I think all across all three answers, it came very, very strongly that way. It's a very interesting one. Thanks a lot. And just both of you have given me a good last question to all of you, because, Gopa, you talked about it was not earlier, and it has, there are a lot of being talked about it. So according to you, chota ek do trends, if you want to cover, what's a trend that you see, critical trends that you see in the space, okay, when it comes to brand safety, okay? If you have anything, anyone can take those questions, or, everyone can talk about it. One or two critical trends, I think if you can cover, it will be great.
So I think one of the trends.
Yeah, Devika.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Please, Devika, go ahead.
Thank you. I think one of the trends that's definitely we can see as a platform is that clients are understanding that this is not a one size fits all solution, and that there is the need for a nuanced solution, right? And there is also increasing adoption of partners they can work with to ensure that their safety parameters are met. And that's actually really encouraging, because it helps define the quality of a particular platform or a publisher. And also affects the kind of relationship that they're able to create and forge with that client. So that's something that we're seeing across the board.
And that's a very interesting one. I think client understanding and partners coming together, because this problem is a complex one. Everyone will come together and hopefully we'll be able to solve it. Yeah.
It is. And I think it stems tremendously from the increasing awareness of the consumer. And a consumer wants to be associated with a brand whose value system is something they sort of, like or appreciate or identify with. And it's, the onus is on brands to be able to define that part of that personality to their consumers. And so brand safety actually becomes incredibly relevant as a marketing tool in this landscape.
Very interesting. Anyone else want to take it, or otherwise we'll wrap up the 40 minutes?
Yeah, so I'll just take two, three trends which I have noticed. One is that after the Nestle issue, brand safety is not just become a marketing issue, it's become an entire corporate issue. And including awareness from the CEO level downwards, that thing has come into a focus in many ways. Not just a PR department, it's become an entire corporate issue. So that is one trend I've noticed. Second trend, which is internal process trend I've noticed, and I've taken good advantage of this, is having a risk workshop before any big brand launches. I think internally we have done it, where we shoot down all the things which can go wrong and make mitigation plans for all of those risks. So I think this is a critical process we have followed and seen big benefits out of it. And finally, as a trend, and I know AI and ML is evolving in terms of contextual intelligence is something we have seen some work, but we leave it to the best in class performance agencies to really develop this in a suitable trend and make it available wider so that the true personalization scale campaigns can happen with this software also.
Yeah, very interesting. Risk mitigation is a good one. And again, contextual intelligence, tools, third-party tools, very interesting one. Anyone else?
So Prasad, as a parting thought, I would like to invite all of you guys on my Discord server to actually just to experience how millenniums are interacting with each other. Trust me, I would love to see brands like Eureka Forbes, etc., having their own Discord server, sharing news and interacting with people beyond whatever you just want to communicate.
I think that's a very good thought. When there are so much of opportunities to interact with the youth, which is evolving minds that way, and at the very, I would say, tender age, it's a responsibility of brand safety is all of ours. Okay, because what we do and what we control and how do we help them to become better there. Okay, and I think with that thought, thanks a lot. Last 30-40 minutes have been such a I learned a lot, and I hope those who are listening to it also could get a good words of wisdom from esteemed panelists that we have. Thank you very much, and have a good day ahead. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Guys, we are having an enriching experience by listening to you all. Big thanks to one and all.